Hi everyone, in this video, I'm going to show you how to solve absolute value equation. Okay, so I'm going to first give out the steps on solving absolute value equation. So I'm going to start with step 1. Okay, and step 1 is you always want to isolate to solve absolute value equation. You always want to isolate the absolute value. So let me draw a vertical line right here. Okay. That's where I'm going to show my work. So if I'm asking you to, if I ask you to solve this absolute value equation, that's absolute value of x minus 1, okay, minus 5 equal to 1. So how will you do this? Step 1, we want to isolate the absolute value, okay? So I'm going to list out the steps. Okay, so I list out the steps, okay? So the first step is to isolate the absolute value. The second step is to write two equations using a definition of absolute value. Okay. Step 3, solve for the variable x in each equation. And I'm choosing to use the variable x, but I could have chosen any letter from the alphabet, from A through Z. Okay. So step 4 is to check your solutions, and the last step is to graph. Usually solving does not mean graphing, but we tell you if you need to graph or not. But I just want to show you how to graph, okay? And let's start, okay? So you're going to be solving the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 5 equal 1. So the first step is to isolate the absolute value. So I'm going to highlight the term of the absolute value. Again, you cannot do minus 1 minus 5. Okay, and say it's x minus 6 equal 1. And the reason is because of the absolute value, the two vertical line. You cannot combine anything when there is absolute value. That's the reason, in order to drop the absolute value, that's why you need to isolate the absolute value. So you can now rewrite the absolute value, the equation without the absolute value. Okay, so here, for instance, so we want to solve the equation. We want to isolate the equation. So in this case, we see that negative 5 is being added to the absolute value. So you're going to add 5 on both sides. And why are you doing this? To isolate the absolute value. We want absolute value to be all alone. So you end up with absolute value x minus 1 is equal to 6. So now we see that the absolute value is all alone. We isolated the absolute value. Step 1 has been completed. So what do we do next? Okay, so for the next step, you're going to write two equations using the definition of absolute value. So when they say using the definition of absolute value, right, it's mean here that absolute value means distance. Okay, when I have a number that I have a distance of on the number line, right? So if I give you absolute value of x equals 6, they want you to find whatever number that I have a distance of 6 on the number line, okay? So if I look, I can consider on the right side of 0, okay? The number that I have a distance of 6 units from 0 is going to be 6, positive 6, as well as negative 6. So first two numbers have actually distance of 6. So it's from 0. So from 0 I have 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Okay, so you're going to write two equations here. So x equal to, let's say, negative 6, or x equal to positive 6. So you could also choose to write the other way around, start with positive 6 here and then write negative 6. So I want to show you here. So to drop the absolute value, you need to write two equations after you isolate the absolute value. And one of the equations you end up with the negative 6, and the other we end up with the positive 6. Okay, so you have to make sure of this. So let's do this. So you're going to write our two equations. So I'm going to draw two arrows. And when I write the two equations, make sure you drop the absolute value. So you're going to drop the absolute value. So I'm going to write x. So x minus 1 equal to, then you're going to write, I'm going to choose to start with negative 6, or, x minus 1 equal to positive 6. Okay, so actually let me even draw my arrows a little bit further right here. Okay, let me use to the white out. Okay, so you see that one equation has a -6 and the other has a +6. But remember, you write the same equation, the same, whatever is inside the absolute value, absolute value symbol, you want to write it. X minus 1 is the exact same term expression. So let's continue. The goal here is to solve for X. Step 3, solve for the variable X, solve for the variable X in each equation. So I'm going to add 1 on both equations. So here we get X equal -5 or X equal to +7. So we found the two numbers, the two solutions. Again, I just wanted to say also absolute value equation, okay, can have two solutions. And this is the case here, you have two solutions. Okay, any absolute value equation can have one solution or no solution. Okay, so here I'm showing you right now how to find so you're going to do equations that have two solutions. Okay, so let's continue. So next step is to check our work. Okay, how do we check? So all you have to do is you're going to go back to the original equation and you're going to plug in the number. And wherever you see the X, you're going to plug in -5 and you're going to do the same for 1X is 7. Okay, so let's do that. So it's going to be -5. So I'm going to put a question mark above the equal sign. Why? You want to see if both sides are going to end up with the same answer. And I'm going to do the next one for the X equals 7. So I'm going to, wherever I see the X, I'm going to plug in 7. -1 -5, is it going to be equal to 1? So let's find out, okay? Okay, so I plug in a number and I found out, okay, -5, you're adding number with the same sign. So -5 -1 is the same thing as -5 plus -1. So you keep the sign and you add the numbers. So you keep -5 plus 1 is 6. So the answer is -6. However, the absolute value of -6 is +6. And all I did is I bring down the -5. So now 6 minus 5 is 1. And 1 is equal to itself. So it's true. So they're the same. So let's check for X equals 7. So 7 take away 1 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is +6. And I bring down the -5. And 6 minus 5 is 1. And 1 is equal to itself. It's true. Okay. So the final step is to do the graphing. And then I'm going to show you the notation. So for the graph, okay. So all you have to do here is to draw a number line. And then on the number line, let's locate 0. Okay, on the number line. And then I want to find, I'm going to label my number line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 7 is right here. And let's do for -5. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So where you see -5 on the number line, I'm going to place a full dot there and a full dot at 7. And that's it. We are done graphing. Okay, that's all you're supposed to do for the graphing. Okay, so now there's a notation. Okay, notation with brackets. So to the way you write the solutions. So the notation, you want to use bracket, 2 brackets like this. Okay, and inside a bracket, you're going to write the 2. For our equation, you have 2 solutions. If you have 1, you write 1 number. Okay, so here for this case here, so I always want you to start with the least number, so which is -5, and then comma the highest number. For some math teachers do not mind, but for me, I mind. But I want you to start with the least number first. And the reason is because I would like to prepare you for interval notation. So start with the least number, so you get the habit to go from least to highest. So least and then the highest number after. And that's your answer. So this is your final answer. Okay. So yeah, I'll show you how to solve absolute value equation. So I'm going to give you a problem for you to practice. Okay. So I gave you this problem for actual practice. So I want you to solve this absolute value equation. Again, what would you do here? So again, you cannot do -5 minus 5 to make it -6. We cannot distribute the 2. Remember, this is not 2 plus absolute value x minus 1, but it's 2 times absolute value x minus 1 minus 5. Mathematicians assume that you know that there is an invisible multiplication dot there, okay? So that's when we don't usually show the multiplication dot, because they assume that you know there's a multiplication dot if there's no operation. If there's no plus, it's multiplication. Okay, so let's do this. So the first step is to isolate the absolute value. So let me rewrite the equation one more time. So you're going to isolate the absolute value. So what do I need to, let me highlight what you need to isolate. Absolute value x minus 1 needs to be isolated. And you have it 2 times here, absolute value. So the first step will be to do what here? You're going to be, okay, let me give you time to do that on your own. Okay, what would be the first step? Okay, the first step here to isolate the absolute value is to add 5 on both sides. And then because 2 is multiplied to the absolute value, the term with the absolute value, you're going to divide by 2. So then you have now the absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to 3. So now, what can you do? So we want to drop the absolute value. So the only way to drop the absolute value is to rewrite it as 2 equations. So you're going to drop the absolute value. So the first one is going to be x minus 1 equal to, and then x minus 1 equal to what number? So remember, so you want to find a number that have a distance of 3 from 0. So the first one on the left is going to be -3, and on the right is going to be +3. So that's why, be careful, you have -3 and +3. So this equation has 2 solutions. So what we do here, the next step is to solve for x. Go ahead and do it. Okay, so I completed the problem. So I hope you got the same answer. So we solve for x by adding 1 on both sides, and you got -2, x equal -2, or x equal 4. And to graph it, all you have to do is to draw the number line and label your number line, right? And on the number line, identify the solution of the x value of -2 and +4 by placing a dot on it. Then the notation, so the final answer, you always want to write in with a bracket notation. And I would like you to start with a negative value first, or the lowest number, and then comma the highest number afterward. Okay, so we are done solving this absolute value equation. Okay, this absolute value equation has 2 solutions. Okay, the next video I'm going to show you how to solve absolute value equation that have 1 solution, and I'm going to do another one that has no solution. Okay, so thank you for paying attention. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.